we're going to put together the Adobe Classes section that we've been working on with two other sections that have been created, one for Apple courses and one for Microsoft courses. But before we do that, we're going to make another one of those assumptions that we've been doing during this chapter of our InDesign course. And we're going to say that this is completely passed through review. All of the individual InDesign documents, the different sections have been approved. It's time to put everything together. So the first thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the master pages. I'm going to get my selection tool, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete that little blue circle that we placed down to the lower right. It's great for internal purposes so we know where we're at for version control, but if we don't want that there when we create the final version of our total training catalog, we want to delete that. So I'm going to do that. Now I'm going to go back to pages 2 and 3, and I'm going to assemble a new InDesign book out of 3 sections, one for Adobe classes, one for Apple classes, and then finally one for Microsoft classes that we have available. Let's open up those other 2 files and see what we're putting together. I'm going to go to the File pull-down menu, and I'm going to select Open. When I do that, it'll bring me by default to that Chapter 7 folder where we've been working on our first name number 7.indd file. I'm going to go to the folder inside of that that's called Other Publications, and I'm going to open up the Apple classes. Just note that I created this as well as the MS Office classes file using the font Times. If you don't have Times and the Missing Fonts dialog box appears, you can click on Find Font, then click on the font name with a warning sign next to it, and replace it with Times New Roman Regular, and click the Change All button. You will need to go through these steps for the other font styles too. So next, click on Times Bold. If you don't have that, then replace with Times New Roman and the bold font style. Click the Change All button again. Do this process again for bold italic and italic font weights. When you're done changing all of those and don't see any more warning triangles, then you can click the Done button. If you're still getting a font warning, go to Type, Find Font to bring up the dialog box again and replace the missing font. That's a small 3-page file. Page 1 with a table of contents for just that section. Page 2 and 3 with the 4 Apple classes we're running for a sample for our total training catalog. And then finally, I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Command-O. If you're working on a PC, you do Control-O. And I'm going to open up the Microsoft Office or MS Office classes.indd. As I double click on that, I'll see this file actually has 5 pages. Now these are already built with the table of contents included in each one of them, as well as indexing for each of the individual courses, like we did in previous units of this chapter of our InDesign CS6 course. So what we're going to do from here is we're actually going to put these together by combining them into what's known as a InDesign book. I'm going to go File, New, and I'm going to select Book instead of Document this time. When I select that, it's going to want to save that as Book 1. I'm going to call it TT Course Catalog, and I'm going to save it. When I do that, what it does is it creates a brand new panel for our desktop that's named TT Course Catalog. We're going to use this to put together the 3 publications that are going to make up our total training catalog. The Microsoft Office classes, the Apple classes, and then the randy7.indd file that actually contains our Adobe classes for this book. So to put those together, I'm going to click on the plus sign. I'm going to go back to Chapter 7 and double click on randy7.indd. And that'll place the first book inside the document. I'm now going to place the second and third by clicking on the plus down to the lower right of that panel. Going to Other Publications, I'm going to select Apple. We'll do it in alphabetical order. Apple is after Adobe, so we'll put that one in next. And that will place the first document inside the book. Now, if for some reason when you opened up the Apple classes or MS Office classes and had to update links or fonts, you have to save those files before you can add them to the book. And then what we'll do is we'll add one more document, and that's the MS Office classes book.indd. Now as I do that, I'll see that it shows page numbers. 1 through 8, those are the pages that we have that are associated with the Adobe portion of our book. So if I go here to page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, just like we designed them when we created that first name number 7.indd file to contain the Adobe Classes section of our Total Training Catalog. Now when I go to the Apple Classes file, you'll notice that the page numbers show as page 9 here. If I go to page 10 and 11, the spread, I'll see that those pages have been changed automatically. So when I created the book, what it did was it set rules for this book to handle renumbering the pages. I'm now going to go to the third publication, and that's that MS Office classes.indd file. And if I go to that, I'll see what happened was it took page 12 and then page 13 and set it off to the side. Now I'm going to say, for the sake of argument, that we want page 12 to be exactly the same as it is for the table of contents for the Apple classes and for the Adobe classes. That it's set for the first page on the right hand side. And then what I want is pages 13 and 14 in a spread, and then pages 15 and 16 in a separate spread. Now that's going to add an additional page, but we can deal with that. That's no problem. We'll work with that in just a little bit. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the flyaway menu for my TT course catalog. And I'm going to go here and look through the various page options that we have available. We can add and remove documents. We can save the book. We can quality test it. We can export it to an EPUB or to a PDF file if we're creating electronic documents or proofs. What we'll do is we'll package it for print a little bit later in this chapter of our InDesign CS6 course. We've got all those options, but what we're going to do is we're going to update the page numbering. But as I do that, I'm going to go here and select the page numbering options. What this does is it says for page order, continue from the previous document, okay, continue from the next odd page, or continue on the next even page. So what this is actually telling me is it gives me the option to set up the rules for doing this. I'm going to go back to page 12 by canceling out and then double-clicking on page 12. So that's the page I've got selected. I'm going to go back to that page numbering options, and what I wanted to do is I wanted to continue this on the next odd page. So I'm going to take page 12 and I'm going to turn it into page 13 by inserting a blank page before where we go. And when I say OK, what it'll do is it will turn that page into page 13 at the start of our MS Office classes. And if I go back to the Apple classes.indd, I can see that it's inserted a blank page for page 12. I can put additional information into here if that's something that I want to do. We're going to say it's not at this point, and we're simply going to set this up exactly as it is. So as I've built this now, what I can see is that I've got 3 documents. My Adobe classes that go from page 1 to page 8. My Apple classes that go from page 9 to 11, but insert a page 12 to balance that out. And the reason we did that was when we go to the MS Office classes, it'll start that on the next right-hand page, page 13, and then it will create additional pages to page 18 here. Now I'm going to say, for the sake of argument, we don't want this one. All I have to do in this case is take it and throw it away. And as I delete that page, I'll see I can't make that happen in this instance. What it's going to do is it's going to balance that out, just as we had before. I've got a couple more things I need to do before we continue. The first one we need to do is we need to create a master table of contents for the book. So I'm going to go to Randy 7, double-clicking, and I'm going to go to page 1. I'm going to go to Layout, Table of Contents, and I'm going to create a new table of contents that we're going to call not Adobe classes in this case, but we're actually going to call this TT for Total Training Course Catalog. I'll leave the styles set as they were before. I'm going to take this header, no new page, and I'm actually going to change that into my TOC subheader style for building the table of contents. In this case, I want to make sure the headers and header no new pages for the entire book are selected. The entry style will leave as it was before for TOC pages. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the Replace Existing Table of Contents checkbox. That would replace what we have set up on page 1 for our Adobe section and create a brand new table of contents that we can put somewhere else. The next thing I'm going to do after that is I'm going to include book documents. And when I do that, it's going to build a master table of contents for the Adobe courses, the Apple courses, and the Microsoft Office courses that we'll build into a brand new document. I'm going to say OK. And when I do so, I'll see that it creates a brand new text file that's TT Course Catalog and actually includes not just what we have here for the Adobe classes, but if I stretch it down further still, I'll see it also includes the Apple classes. And if I could pull it down further, I'd see the Microsoft classes as well. Now, we're not set up to place this here. I want to leave this page right where it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a brand new document. I'm going to go to the File pull-down menu and I'm going to select Open. It's going to bring me back to Other Publications. We're going to go back to Chapter 7. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up randy7.indt, the template that we created for our Total Training Catalog. When I double-click on that, it'll create a brand new unnamed document. I'll see that it's got Total Training, in this case page 1. I'm going to go back to my copy here. I'm going to select this entire thread of type, and I'm going to go Edit, Cut. If you want to use the keyboard shortcut for that, you could go Command X on the Mac, or if you're using a Windows PC, that keyboard shortcut would be Control X. That takes it and puts it in our clipboard. I'm going to go to my Untitled 8 file, and then I'm going to go Edit, Paste. You could use the keyboard shortcut Command V for a Mac or Control V if you're working with a Windows PC. Now it'll take it and actually put it inside of that untitled document. Now as I look at it, I've only got one page, and that's great. That's no big deal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this document and I'm going to name it File, Save As, and in this case I'm going to put it in the Other Publications, and I'm going to name this Master TOC. And what that does is that's actually going to set it up so we can take this away and create a master table of contents for the entire Total Training Catalog. When I save this, I have my master TOC. Now what I need to do is I need to add this to my course catalog. I'm going to hit the Add Documents button. I'm going to select Master TOC and open it. And what that does is that takes my master TOC and it places it after Randy 7. That's probably not where I wanted it to be. But I can take this and I can actually move it above by putting my cursor on it, holding the mouse button down, and moving it above. I'll see when I get to that spot because I get the big, heavy black line, and I'll take that master table of contents and put it to the front. I've got page 1, and I've got a blank page 2, just like I have when I have it set up for going to the Apple classes and going to the Microsoft Office classes. So what that does, that fills in that odd spot that I have. When I'm working with it, there's page 10, 3 through 10. If I look at 10, that's got copy. Page 11 starts because it doesn't need an extra odd page. It filled in the blank page at the end of Apple classes, at the end of Microsoft Office classes, and at the end of our master table of contents. Let's save our work and go on to the next section of our InDesign CS6 course.